Good evening, everyone. I call the 2370th meeting of the Milwaukee City Council to order. This meeting is being held in person at City Hall and by video conference. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall or joining the Zoom webinar. The meeting is being broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and Comcast cable channel 30 in city limits. There will be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address council, you may come to City Hall. However, seating in chambers is limited. If you are interested in speaking, please let staff know by filling out a yellow comment card for those at City Hall or by emailing ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov for those on Zoom. When it's time to take public comment, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. Written comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov. Spanish translation services are available upon request. The public is asked to request translation and other meeting accessibility services at least 48 hours before the meeting. Contamos con servicio de traducción al español cuando sea solicitado. Se pide al público que solicite servicios de traducción y otros servicios de accesibilidad para reuniones por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión. Translation services are also available in other languages. All right, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The City of Milwaukee respectfully acknowledges that our community is located on the ancestral homeland of the Clackamas people. In 1855, the surviving members of the Clackamas signed the Willamette Valley Treaty, also known as the Kalapuya Etc. Treaty, with the federal government in good faith. We offer our respect and gratitude to the indigenous people of this land. Tonight's announcements. The city is hosting leaf drop sessions for anyone who lives in city limits. The next one is Saturday, December 10th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Johnson Creek Building. Bring a utility bill as proof of residency. The service is free, but the city will be collecting non-perishable food for local families in need for anyone that would like to contribute. Join the Milwaukee Museum on Saturday, December 10th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for their annual Christmas at the Museum event. The event includes live music, treats, and pictures with Santa. This year's Winter Solstice and Christmas Ships events takes place on Saturday, December 17th from 4:30 to 7:30. This annual celebration at Milwaukee Bay Park includes warm fires and tasty treats to enjoy while watching the Christmas Ships parade. It's a regional tradition that dates back to 1954. Check the city website for more information about the event, including what food and drinks will be available for purchase, what times we expect the ships to sail by, and the best way to get to and from this very popular event. Welcome Winter at the Ledding Library on Tuesday, December 20th with some drop-in card making from 1 to 4 p.m. This fun holiday activity is free and anyone can participate. Lastly, be sure to participate in an all ages snowflake scavenger hunt at the Ledding Library anytime. The library is open from Monday, December 26th through Saturday, December 31st. For more information about each of these events and others, please visit the city's homepage at milwaukeeoregon.gov or call 503-786-7555.
I add a couple of things. First off, the Christmas ships are actually starting tonight. For anyone who wants to go out there on a nice dry December evening, they come to Milwaukee Bay about 8 o'clock, 7:45 to be safe. Also, as always, the second Saturday of the month, which is this coming Saturday, the 10th, is the work party in Minthorn Springs Wetland on 37th Avenue. You can go to the Milwaukee Parks Foundation Facebook page, for details on that, but it starts at 9:30 in the morning for anyone who wants to come pull some invasive species out of the wetlands and plants, I mean. And also, there are some cool aerial drone photos that were taken last month of Minthorn that are up on the Facebook page. And I found them really fascinating. I'd never seen it from above. So anyway, Minthorn is a special wetland in the center of our town that a lot of people don't know about, but it's across behind the new Planet Fitness that's going in Milwaukie Marketplace. Thank you.
I have something. One of my neighbors is having a winter warm drive. They're collecting donations to help our neighbors in need during these cold, wet months. You can drop off hats, gloves, scarves, socks, sweaters, coats, boots, blankets at 8804 Southeast 31st Avenue in Milwaukie. If you have any questions, you can text Colin Wanacott at 541-908-1907 or email him at Colin, COLIN, .Wanacott, WONNACOTT @gmail.
Anybody else? Okay. This is the part of the agenda during which council will hear community members' comments regarding city business. For those in person who wish to speak, please submit a yellow comment card found on the table just outside the door. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand reaction to alert staff you wish to speak, and when you're instructed to begin, click the microphone option to unmute yourself. If you're calling in through Zoom and would like to make a comment, dial *9 to raise your hand. You may also submit a comment via email to ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov. Before you make your comments, please state your name and city of residence for the record. If you would like the city to follow up with you, please submit your contact information to ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov. As council has other business items on the agenda this evening, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Because information provided during the community comments may be new to the city manager, the city manager will respond at the next council meeting to those comments that require follow-up. Before we begin, are there any follow-up comments from the last meeting?
There are not, but I did just want to take a moment to let everyone on the dais know and in the audience know that tonight we do have a time certain deadline by which we have to be out of the room, or at least one of us does. So we're trying to hold to the time limits tonight. So I'm going to be watching my time more closely, and I'll be working with council to try and support you getting through the agenda items at least by the allocated time that we had. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can come grab me off of the dais and we can chat about it from staff level, but that is the goal, is that we are able to get through the agenda for tonight. Thanks.
All right, so I have one comment card for public comment. Come on up, Greer.
And Mr. Mayor, there's also one hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, thanks very much. Mayor Gamba, city councilors. My name is Greer Ryan. I am a resident of the city of Portland and the Clean Buildings Policy Manager for Climate Solutions. I'm here just to let folks know about an event that's related to a business item later in the agenda, but it's being sponsored by a group of nonprofits: Breach Collective, Electrify Now, Sierra Club, and Community Energy Project. It is the Clean Homes and Buildings Forum that is happening this Sunday. And it's really about just getting community members together to learn a bit about the benefits of making buildings more efficient, powered by efficient electric appliances, including the public health benefits and cost savings benefits. There will be a handful of speakers who are experts in policy, marketing communications, sustainable design and architecture, and public health. So it is this Sunday from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Chapel Theater, which is at 4107 Southeast Harrison Street here in Milwaukie. And we just really hope that folks will be able to show up. That's it.
Thank you. And on Zoom?
Hand raised is Charles Bird. Mr. Bird, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Josh, if you can hear us, can you turn the PA up in the room a little bit, please? Go ahead, Mr. Byrd.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to address the council on the issue I'd like to speak about is the Good Neighbor Committee and the Good Neighbor Committee funds that are there in, I don't know if I can turn my camera on so you can see me. I don't know if that's important, but the, this project that was started between the city of Milwaukee and the county using $1 per EDU was started and it was not finished. In my opinion, the council prematurely stopped this program and has taken the money and is looking to put it into a different purpose. I'd recommend you reconsider it, just reinstating the original agreement with also a stipulation that the representatives be made from the neighborhood and recommended by the neighborhood so that they have neighborhood representation on that committee. I think that was its strength at the beginning and became its weakness at the end, where the neighborhood wasn't involved and was no longer involved in the committee. So I'd recommend that the council maybe take it off the agenda for tonight or just vote to go back to the old agreement that was made between the county and the city. That's my comment.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That's the only hand raised, Mr. Mayor. I don't see any other comment cards.
Okay. So tonight's consent agenda includes the minutes of the City Council from October 18th, 2022, the work session, October 18th, 2022, the regular session, November 1st, 2022, work session, November 1st, 2022, regular session. A resolution authorizing a contract with Diversified Abilities to provide janitorial services. A resolution authorizing a contract with Peterson Structural Engineers to design seismic retrofits at the Public Safety Building. A resolution acting as a local contract review board authorizing an amendment to contract with Security Signs. A resolution authorizing an agreement with Mission Square for the administration of employee deferred compensation accounts. A resolution authorizing financing for transportation projects and urban renewal projects and providing for related matters. And a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County Water Environmental Services for the purposes of providing funds for a Good Neighbor program. Does any member of council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to remove item G of the resolution relating to the Good Neighbor program for further discussion.
Okay. So can I hear a motion to pass the rest of the?
I'm happy to move to approve tonight's consent agenda items A through F as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass the consent agenda items A through F. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. They pass. Item G.
Item G, even before Mr. Byrd testified just now, I had wanted to pull this off and suggest that we discuss it in the new year. Staff did go meet with the two affected NDAs historically have been Historic Milwaukee and Island Station. That is the benefit. They are the neighborhoods most impacted by the plant, and the whole system was indeed created to benefit those neighborhoods. I know Peter Passarelli did go meet with those neighborhoods in the process of creating what's here on item G, but they didn't get any notice until I gave them notice that this was on the agenda today. So I do feel like they need to be given some time to review and comment. So my suggestion would be to just continue this one over into January.
I do not support that suggestion. We had extensive opportunity for input from the community on this, 4 different opportunities. It was discussed at the CALA Good Neighbor Committee multiple times. These funds were not created to benefit those 2 neighborhoods. They were created to acknowledge that Milwaukee bears a burden as a community for hosting the sewage treatment plant. And what this agreement does is extend the benefit to neighborhoods beyond the immediate vicinity of the sewage treatment plant. We've heard from Wes that they have a plan in place with funding in the next 5 years to even further mitigate the odors that they're producing. They've already done a ton of work on this. I appreciate that the neighbors are concerned and they have always been good stewards, but I do not feel that, that there's been a dearth of opportunity for input on this matter.
Well, I would say that the last, there were a core of, I don't know too much about the historic Milwaukie side of it, but on the Island Station side of it, there were a core of neighbors who were involved over the years and then were sort of term limited out of serving on the committee. And the person who ended up serving on the committee representing Island Station when this process, when these discussions were happening, was not reporting back to the neighborhood association. I think maybe there was a miscommunication as to what the expectations were in terms of her consultation with the neighborhood association. But I heard at the time, and I've heard again last month when I went to the neighborhood meeting, concerns about that. So, I don't know that I think there's, I don't know that I'm going to be supportive of revisiting, reestablishing a committee. But I think in light of, we've heard now this summer and fall from a lot of neighborhoods about, and not just neighborhoods, from a lot of residents about lack of us listening. And I feel like we ought to give people a chance to properly review and comment.
And I'm sorry, I disagree. I, again, feel like the opportunity for input on this was ample. The only neighborhood that we have heard from on this topic in any significant way is Island Station. And I appreciate, again, their longstanding interest in this. But the fact of the matter remains that the committee was laid down as part of the discussion over how do we make sure that these funds are benefiting, funds which are paid by all ratepayers, are benefiting our entire community. A lot of good work was done by the Kellogg Good Neighbor Committee, but there's more work to be done in a broader session, and there's no way in which the current agreement that's proposed here will exclude the neighborhood from benefiting.
Right, and we've heard several times at this council on this, and we had a lot of back and forth, and the contract is written. It's the same contract that the two other cities that Wes deals with have. I think it's an improvement. I think it doesn't take anything away from what we were doing. It actually broadens it, other than it doesn't have the same makeup of a committee. So I'm not inclined to, I think the staff needs this contract to be done so they can be done with it. And I'm not inclined to continue this. So if somebody wants to make a motion.
Is the motion to approve item G?
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve item G on the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve item G, a resolution authorizing the intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County Water Environmental Services for the purposes of providing funds for a Good Neighbor program. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye, nay, whichever
Whichever you want. They both work.
I
All
also
right.
just wanted to call out a thank you to Wes, who were, staff were online if we had questions. So thank you to them.
All right. So one of the many things we have to do tonight is to behave as the Redevelopment Commission. So council will now recess the regular session to meet with the meet as the Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission. Council will reconvene at after the commission meeting. If you're watching on Zoom, you can stay where they are. This shouldn't take terribly long. All right, I call the Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and by video conference. This is basically the boilerplate of what I said about 5 minutes ago, so I'm just going to skip it. All right, so the first item on the meeting is the approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion about December 20th, 2022 commission meeting minutes? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the September 2022 Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the September 2022 Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Let's see, the MRC Community Advisory Committee appointment resolution. This will be introduced by our city recorder.
Thank you, Commission Chair and Commissioners. This is a pretty straightforward item, similar to what was asked of you back in September, the last meeting. David Schitzazen has applied and is interested in being on the committee. There was a panel of council and staff who recommended or nominated David to fill this position on the MRC CAC. And if there are any questions, happy to field it, but pretty straightforward recommendation for appointment.
Nope. Just thanks to David for
Yeah.
stepping up. It's great that he's bringing that particular set of expertise.
I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution making an appointment to the MRC Community Advisory Committee.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the resolution making an appointment to the MRC Advisory Committee. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Passes unanimously. Urban Renewal Projects Bonding Authorization Resolution. This will be presented by the Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission's Executive Director, Kelly Brooks.
Good evening. This is pretty straightforward as well, and is the other part of what you approved on the consent agenda regarding the bonding for transportation dollars. So this is the action that we need to approve the resolution to authorize the indebtedness from the Urban Renewal District, $5.5 million. So we have the resolution to authorize that, and then also for us to finalize an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission to issue this debt in tandem. So that's it. We're hoping that you would approve the resolution so we can proceed.
Any questions? I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing indebtedness for certain capital projects described in the Milwaukie Urban Renewal Plan for the Milwaukie Urban Renewal Area.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution authorizing the indebtedness for certain capital projects described in the Milwaukie Urban Renewal Plan for the Milwaukie Urban Renewal Area. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Are there any further commission reports?
And we'll be back providing you all a more detailed schedule of when the next set of MRC meetings will be in 2023 and associated advisory committee meetings. So I'll bring that forward in the new year.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the commission meeting.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the commission meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. All right. I call the council meeting back to order. Council will now proceed to the two public hearing items. We will continue to the business items after the hearing. Camping ordinance adoption. The public hearing on the proposed camping ordinance is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to hear a staff report, take public comment, deliberate, and consider adopting a camping ordinance. Does any council member wish to announce an actual or potential conflict of interest? Nope. Seeing none, welcome. This will be presented by our Chief of Police and our newest team member, Glenn Sukanik.
Sukanik.
Bad guess, Sukanik. Nice to meet you, sir.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Good evening, Mayor Gamba, council, and members of the public. My name is Luke Strait, and I'm the police chief for the Milwaukie Police Department. We're here this evening to recommend that council adopt the camping ordinance. We've had 2 previous meetings with fairly robust discussions about that ordinance and the process leading up to this point. And I'm here mostly this evening to recommend that, and then also to take a moment to introduce Glenn Sukanik, who is our new behavioral health specialist. And I'd like to ask Glenn to take just a minute or two to talk about his training and experience that led him to this point.
Nice to meet you all. I'm happy to be here. I've been in the field for about 8 years now. Started my educational career at Chemeketa Community College in the Human Services Department, where I got my AAS, and continued on to Portland State University, where I transferred into the social work program. I just completed my master's in social work in June, specifying in public leadership and community organizations. I'm a co-occurring therapist and counselor. I hold a certified alcohol and drug counselor 3, certified recovery mentor 2, qualified mental health professional, which is also a QMHP, and I'm currently working on my LCSW, which is a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm a clinical social work associate right now. My passion is building relationships. That's what I do for a living, from the top down and the bottom up. I like to meet people and just get to know them. I like to learn their stories, and that I started my career in harm reduction at Bridgeway Recovery Services in Salem, Oregon. And then I transferred up to Central City Concern in Portland, and I helped create the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program approximately 4 years ago in Clackamas County. I started as the screening and outreach coordinator there, and just ended my career there to come to this wonderful city of Milwaukie. I was the clinical supervisor and ran the team. So I'm just super excited to be here, super excited to be inside the city for support and not outside the city. I've worked with the city and just love the culture that it brings, and I'm super glad to be here. So that's a little bit about me.
We're really excited to have you.
Thank you.
I think that at this point, we just wanted to give Glenn a chance to say hi. If you all ever need him, you can call through the non-emergency dispatch and just ask to be sent his direction. To be clear, he's here Monday through Thursday?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, so it's during the daytime hours, Monday through Thursday. If not, I would check in with the chief if you have a specific need. But we're trying to also make sure Glenn has other things he does besides work here. And I think that part of why we wanted him to be here tonight is in the ordinance, we talk a lot about all the tools we need to go through. Glenn will be a key part of that. To be clear, is already a part of that, has been for years. So he has a breadth of knowledge about how we support and help people, and brings a great passion to it. We're really excited about it. So this is all working together to create a safer, better environment for everyone, including our neighbors who are in crisis.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to personally sitting down with you and picking your brain and learning about you.
That would be amazing.
Cool.
And you're fulfilling the dreams of both our police department, who we've heard personal accounts of how badly your services have been needed, and of our residents. So thank you so much for being excited to join this culture. It's a great compliment to the police department and to Milwaukee's community that you're excited to be here, and we're really glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm just as excited and really look forward to, like you said, not only meeting the neighbors and the needs of the department, but also the community and the organizations. I've spent my first onboarding time just going around and meeting some of the organizations and the places in town and just letting them know that I'm here. So
Appreciate it. Thank you. Go Vikes.
Yeah. All right. Are there any questions that folks have about the ordinance itself? No?
It still looks good.
Have we received any additional correspondence on this topic?
I'm not aware of any, Mr. Mayor, but we do have one hand raised when we get to the public comment part.
Okay, great. All right, then I won't ask that question. The council will now take public testimony on the proposed code changes. I will recognize speakers and any questions should be addressed through me. When you begin to speak, state your name and city of residence for the record. For those in person who wish to speak, please submit a yellow comment card found on the table just outside the door. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand reaction to alert staff you wish to speak, and when instructed to begin, click the microphone option to unmute yourself. If you're calling in through Zoom and would like to make a comment, dial *9 to raise your hand. You may also submit a comment via email to ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov. Presentation times for all speakers will be limited. Representatives of groups will be limited to 10 minutes. Individuals will be limited to 3 minutes. Please confine your remarks to the proposed action and avoid repetition and irrelevant information.
David Shitsazen is on Zoom and he would like to make a comment. Mr. Shitsazen, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi everyone. Thanks for confirming me a little bit ago for the Redevelopment Advisory Commission. Thank you guys very much for the time, and thank you, Police Chief Luke and Glenn. Sounds like you have some really cool knowledge on this area, and honestly, it seems like more cities need people like you. I think you're going to be a huge asset. So my name is David Chitzazan. I'm from the Hector Campbell area. I'm speaking as a resident here, and while I do believe many aspects of camping ordinances in general, personally, are kind of a criminalization of homelessness. I know that matter has been discussed in mass, and a lot of this is already in motion. I'm here just to address a specific point of subsection B. So I spoke to my sister-in-law and her husband, who are both attorneys, and we were talking about the area of the subsection B, part 1, with grounds to believe. And grounds to believe is a pretty broad and kind of not a very measurable standard. And my simple proposal for subsection B, part 1 would just be changing that part 1 to say that when law enforcement determines there's a reasonable, articulable suspicion that illegal activities other than camping are occurring at the established camping site. This way it would help narrow the scope a little bit. Since technically speaking, removal of a campsite is property seizure. For the same reason, I wouldn't want my golf clubs or my sports card collection, taken by anyone just for a belief. I'd want a more narrow scope on that. I'm hoping that the same would apply here. I also think this would make the Milwaukee Police Department's life a little easier too, because that way, they'll only need to be responding if there's a reasonable, articulable suspicion, and not just if it's, the same person calling over and over again and there's nothing that justifies the illegal activity. Just in general, there's a lot of things personally, kind of joking here, but that I believe in, mostly sports related, that when it comes to actually thinking about a reasonable, articulable comment on it, it fizzles a little bit. And that narrow scope, I do really feel will help kind of guide just this one small portion of it. So I really hope the city considers adopting my proposed change, which would just simply say that when law enforcement determines that there's a reasonable, articulable suspicion rather than belief. Thank you guys very much for your time, and have a nice night.
I think that the attorney actually has some thoughts, so I just wanted to.
Just gonna
Yep.
ask that.
Yeah, I don't have the language. Could you repeat for me, Luke, what the language is in that section, or did somebody catch that? I don't have it in front of me.
It's page RS 651, if that helps
Yeah,
you.
that's what I'm working to get.
It's the 72-hour notice requirement.
I think the way it's written is currently to mirror language that the police department typically uses when they have grounds to suspect something. The suggestion, I don't have a huge problem with the language suggested. I would probably say articulable does not need to be included because anything can be articulated. So probably a reasonable belief or suspicion that probably mirrors pretty closely with language that the police and code enforcement folks are used to using. And it's
That's okay with me. Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. My sister-in-law, the lawyer, did not include articulable when we were talking about it. And I just thought that she missed that, but never doubt Megan, Esquire.
What that injects is, well, what is something that's articulated? I mean,
Yeah.
What's the standard, or at what percentage do you get to have something that meets the articulable standard? Whereas a reasonable belief or suspicion is language that is commonly used in law enforcement and understood. So I would probably suggest, if there are going to be changes made, that it be done to that.
Thank you.
And the chief didn't have concerns.
No, I did not.
Chief didn't what, sorry?
No concerns with that.
And do you think it makes it a little stronger?
To be honest with you, I think the way it's written is to kind of mirror what language that law enforcement's used to. And I think they use the words grounds for law enforcement. Adding a reasonable component to that, certainly no problem with that. And so to be stronger, now there'll be a standard that when using this section, they will have to have a reasonable belief or suspicion of unlawful activity or illegal activities other than camping. So drug use.
Right.
I think that was a yes.
Other crimes. Thank you. I know, we're supposed to be succinct tonight. I'm sorry, yes.
There you go. All right.
Looking, I guess, to read it into the record, I think paragraph B1 would be changed to when there are grounds for law enforcement officials to believe that illegal activities other than camping are occurring at an established camping site. That would be changed to when there are, when law enforcement has a reasonable belief or suspicion that illegal activities other than camping are occurring at an established camping site.
There you go. Okay.
Does that work for everybody?
And then you need to strike,
Yeah.
there are grounds.
Yeah.
For, I guess. And then law enforcement officials
Have.
not has, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Is anybody else got their hand raised to speak?
There are no other hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And I see no other comment cards.
And beyond the response that we've seen, any other response from staff on the public comment or the changes? No? Okay. Does council have any questions for staff?
Looks good.
If there are no more questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public comment part of the camping ordinance hearing.
I move to close the public comment portion of this item.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public comment part of the camping ordinance hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. The public comment period of the camping ordinance hearing is closed. Is there any council discussion?
I'll just say, I think it's really it's clear. I mean, we were told about all the vetting you did with groups around town, but it's really clear from the finished product, I think, that it's been really thoroughly poked and prodded. It's well written. I think you've done a really nice job.
Yeah, I think it sets up a good process, I believe. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, everyone who was involved. Is council ready to vote? Then I would entertain a motion. And
Move for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance amending the municipal code by adding a new section 9.32 camping.
as amended?
As amended, yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded for first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance amending the municipal code MMC by adding a new section 9.32 camping as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Ms. Ober, would you please read the ordinance by title only twice?
An ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, amending the municipal code, MMC, by adding a new section 9.32 camping. And an ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, amending the municipal code, MMC, by adding a new section 9.32 camping.
Mr. Stauffer, would you please poll the council?
Councilor Cosrabati.
Aye.
Councilor Beatty.
Aye.
Council President Heisey.
Aye.
Councilor Nicodemus.
Aye.
Mayor Gamba.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0, ordinance 2222.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, our next item is the high-density residential zones adoption ordinance file number ZA-2022-002 continued. The continued public hearing on the high-density residential zones code adoption is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to continue the hearing, receive an updated staff report, deliberate and consider adopting changes to the city's municipal code. Does any council member wish to announce an actual or potential conflict of interest?
No.
None seen or heard. This will be presented by our senior planner, Vera Colias, and our associate planner, Adam Hero. When the technology allows.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. Vera Coley, Senior Planner, here with Adam Hero, Associate Planner, to present the updates to the high-density residential zone consolidation project. Just a reminder where we've been. We had a work session with City Council back on October 18th, public hearing on November 15th, and then we have a continued hearing to go over some of the discussion items from the last hearing. So there are two consolidation approaches under discussion following that public hearing on November 15th. There is the 3-zone option. That was the option that was originally proposed and came from the Planning Commission and then presented here to council. And then after some discussion at the last public hearing, the notion of a 1-zone or a full consolidation of the high-density residential zones was also discussed. So again, the 3-zone consolidation, again, we have 5 medium and high-density residential zones today in today's code. And the proposal was to bring that down to 3 zones. So we would have a new R3 zone, which is a combination of the current R3 and the R2.5 zone, a new R2 zone, which is the R2 and the R1 zone, and then the R1B zone would remain the same. And that the R1B is the zone that's basically kind of adjacent to the downtown area. And this map is what would reflect that 3-zone consolidation option. Again, this is the proposed use table for that consolidation. We have some highlighted sections in that table of uses so that you can see what some of the differences would be. Most particularly with the commercial uses and with manufactured dwelling parks. So again, the personal and business services in the R3 and the R2 zone would be limited uses, so they would be allowed by right, but they would be limited by size. And then for office uses, again, they would be allowed by right up to a certain size of 2,000 square feet. Anything larger than that would be by conditional use. And then for the development standards, you can see up in the top, we have the existing code standards for these higher density residential zones and what that proposed consolidation would do. And the changes, the most significant of the development standard changes is with the minimum and maximum density, because we're sort of bumping them up from that existing through that consolidation process. I did also just want to note, and Councilor Beatty brought this up this afternoon, and I appreciate that, that in the staff report, we talk about that new non-residential buildings would be subject to the design standards that we currently have in our mixed-use zones. And what we neglected to do was pull that over into the 3-zone option as well. So any new commercial, new non-residential buildings would have design standards both in the 3-zone option and in the full consolidation option. We realized that we didn't have design standards that would have applied to the non-residential buildings. So what those are include minimum glazing percentages for street-facing walls, weather protection, screening of mechanical equipment on the rooftops, that sort of thing. So it's the same, they are the same design standards in the neighborhood mixed use zone and the general mixed use zone. So we would have those also apply to any new buildings through this process that are non-residential. So any of those new personal service or office buildings.
Is that where the step backs also are found, as in the design standards?
Yes.
Okay.
So then following that discussion on November 15th, there was a discussion about what if we did a full consolidation and pulled them all together into one high density residential zone. So this map reflects what that full consolidation would look like. So basically it's all of those high density residential zones, all the same color. So you can see those areas that would be affected by that. The bulk of that area is towards the downtown and around the central Milwaukie area. We do have some of those zones also around the King Road Shopping Center. But you can see they're sort of clustered around existing commercial nodes that we have already.
So I hadn't noticed it before, but that at the very bottom right of the map, there's a blob that's sort of near North Clackamas Park, I take it.
Right. Yes.
And is that, that is in the city?
is,
I mean, we have
yes.
another blob over here that's outside the city.
No, that's actually in the city as well.
It's just-
It is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's
Okay.
a developed
Existing
multifamily.
Apartment.
Multifamily, yeah.
Okay,
Correct,
okay.
yes.
So that blob is the, where the new elder care facility on Rusk Road, and then across, I mean, I assumed since we did allow multifamily there, it makes sense to me that that's part of this, but I didn't realize that extended across 224?
Yes. Yep.
It
And that-
does, okay. It extends, okay,
It's basically that little neighborhood that floods.
right,
Right.
right, okay.
This chart, we talked about this at the last hearing as well, what the full consolidation would mean. So what we've done here is this chart compares the existing code with the 5 zones and what that would mean with the new full consolidation zone. So you can see what would be permitted, the outright permitted uses between all of them, and then the personal and business services, office uses, and the hotel or motel. So so there are some key differences in permitted uses mostly from the R3 zone over into the full consolidation. And then when we look at the the development standards, you can see so building height goes up to 45 feet. We do still have that side yard height plane standard to minimize bulk at the side property lines. The maximum lot coverage goes up, and minimum vegetation would be reduced. So we're mimicking sort of the standards for the higher density zones. And then the density of 25, minimum 25 to 32 would be mimicked. So we're basically pulling over the R1 and the R1B standards over into for the full consolidation, so that we're maximizing those opportunities for additional development and infill development. And again, as I mentioned, the non-resident, any new non-residential buildings would be subject to those design standards that we talked about as well, that are currently in our mixed use zones. There was discussion about a reduced minimum front yard setback for the area that is now currently the R1B zone. And there was discussion about creating an overlay zone for that. What staff would recommend in place of that would be to create a graphic within that section of the code like we have for downtown. So rather than an actual overlay zone that affects the zoning map, we would identify that area via a graphic in the code and identify that this is an area that properties within this area have a different setback, and it would be a 5-foot minimum setback. That way we're not creating a whole zone for just one standard. It's as much as I like all these zones, we're trying to consolidate. So, and this is a methodology that we already have in our downtown mixed use zone. We have a variety of figures that identify different areas that have for example, first floor residential uses, or have different 90% or 75% of what you need for your frontage to have building occupancy. So we already use this methodology. So we thought that this would be a cleaner way of identifying those areas. Okay.
Can I ask a question about that map? So that map is the current R1B?
Correct, yes.
So at the north edge of that, we have a couple more blocks, or maybe a block and a half more of houses or something. And then those all dead end, the mayor used to live there.
Right.
I guess it seems funny to me that these residential lots are included and those aren't. I guess that was a decision made long ago when the map was drawn. Yeah, okay, I guess. All right, I don't guess there's a question there. You just clarified that for me. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Okay, so here's the menu. In summary so under the 3-zone consolidation option, so if that were the way to go, you could adopt that as it was originally proposed. The 3 zones, the standards are the same, there it is. You could do a 3-zone consolidation, but we would change that minimum front yard setback in the R1B zone. So that's the 3-zone option. If we go for or if you choose to move forward with the full consolidation, you could again have those same standards apply all the way across the board. We could have that R1B area identified within the full consolidation as having that 5-foot front yard setback, or you could apply that 5-foot front yard setback across the entire consolidated zone. So I know this seems like you have a lot of options, and you do, but we wanted to make it really clear that within that 3-zone or the 1-zone option, you have sub-options that you can. So we have some levers that can get pulled here, and we can make those accommodations within the code. The code that was submitted in the packet was the 3-zone option, and then the full consolidation option with that R1B area identified. But again, I've already written it out, so I can kind of plug things in as however your discussion goes and whichever way you need the adoption to go. I can do that. I think. Happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions for staff? No?
Can you just direct me to the language, just what page it is on that that is what, I mean, you mentioned that you were going to add it to the 3 zone, but in the 1 zone, where's the language cross-referencing the design standards?
And actually, I'm glad you asked that, because when I went back through, I realized that I made an error in how I dated my versions. So I'll tell you what page it should be on. And then I can tell you where it actually is. So it would be on RS 771, but it's not in your packet because it was a different version that I provided to Scott because I didn't update the date of my version. So what it would say in the applicability is we would add the following language in the applicability, and because it currently says that the design standards are applicable to the street-facing facades in new commercial, institutional, manufacturing, and mixed-use buildings within the commercial mixed-use zones. That's what it says right now. And then we would add, and the high-density residential zones. So we would just add that as where it would be applicable. And then we would also add that the standards do not apply to change in use and additions or expansions of existing residential structures. We want to be really clear that if someone has an existing home, a residential dwelling that they're converting into a commercial use, that we're not going to throw all of these design standards at them. But that it would be for new construction. So I apologize for the error in the packet, but that would be the language. We are changing the applicability of that section to make sure that we add the high density residential zones. And in the development standards table, we would cross-reference and have 19.505.7 as an additional development standard to those commercial uses, so that it's in both the table as well as the language. I had too many versions of the code. I do apologize for the error.
We expect more of you after the comprehensive plan updating.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Is there any discussion?
Don't we have public?
That we closed the public hearing
No,
portion?
we haven't.
We did.
No.
We did.
Oh, last time we
Yeah.
did? Oh,
We didn't reopen it.
oh.
And I don't believe there's anyone here to speak on. You are here to speak on this?
Hoping to.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm not doing my job as a lackey here.
All right. Well, okay. We
And there's
can.
nobody
It
online.
is-
No.
It is possible for us to reopen that.
Put in grayed out, there's, in the script. Simple motion to move to reopen that.
I move to reopen the public hearing on high density residential code. Goodness.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to reopen the public hearing comment part of the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. Public hearing portion of the hearing on the high-density zones is reopened. Camden, come on up. Sorry, I didn't know anybody was here on it.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Apologies for missing the date out there. So my name is Camden McCone. I live in the Welling neighborhood here in Milwaukee. I first wanted to say thanks to council and the mayor and staff for all of the hard work you've put in over the past term. I'm here to voice my support for the high-density residential zoning, the full consolidation that you all have been working on. More options for building types, including small businesses and higher density, are huge for housing affordability, walkability, and transit ridership, and thus hit 2 council goals: climate change mitigation and equity, justice, and inclusion, as housing affordability issues are obviously not felt evenly across different communities. All but 2 of the current high-density residential zones are directly adjacent to transit lines, and these are crucial areas to upzone as facilitating higher density and destinations along transit routes makes transit more convenient for the most people possible. This is referred to as transit-oriented development and is the best thing we can do as a small city in TriMet's large network to increase our ridership. Furthermore, at a time when TriMet is likely to cut some service soon in lower density areas, including potentially our Line 32, it's important to show TriMet that we're serious with regards to facilitating high ridership numbers. We can't give them a bunch of new drivers or tens of millions of dollars, obviously, but we can show that we're, a good place for good bang for their buck with regards to ridership. For this reason, I would also advocate for upzoning the full length of each road that has a transit route in Milwaukie, but that's obviously a discussion for another day. I generally support the full consolidation, though I do understand the concern of the high density right next to medium density being not so graceful. Gradual change in building form from street to street does make the area feel more whole and natural. So I do still believe we should go with the full consolidation and then in the future move to upzone the adjacent RMD lots to something like the current R2.5 or somewhere in that range. So in summation, I'll reiterate that I support the full consolidation as well as upzoning adjacent RMD lots to something in between the high density and medium, so a medium. I know it's a lot of things that wouldn't really happen today, but putting it out there in the ether. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Potential future planning commissioner, you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate this.
You've outed yourself. Beware.
This is recorded too, so.
Yeah. You're trapped now. All right, is there any further? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public comment part of the hearing.
I move.
Go ahead.
I move to close the public comment part of this hearing.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public comment part of this hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
The comment part of this hearing is closed. Now, is there any discussion?
Well, I know last time most of council was on board for full consolidation. I think Lisa Gunyon-Rinker from the Ardenwald neighborhood wrote us a very articulate and yet concise letter about some of the problems with that. I still support, and one she brought up that I didn't, that I hadn't, really focused on is the urban heat island effect of the going down to 15%, planted, landscaped vegetation, that's the word I'm looking for. So I do still feel that the 3-zone consolidation provides a proper transition. Even Mr. McCone noted the need for transition, but he proposed that we do it in by changing the medium density zones, and that is something that could be done, but we're not doing that at this point. So I still believe that the 3-zone package is the way to go for Milwaukie as it is today. So in talking to various people about this, and he sort of made the point about having more options for small businesses. I do think that's there's sort of a chicken and egg, or there's sort of a problem in that we create more opportunities for small businesses and we sort of cannibalize ourselves. And, we've had Axle Tree sit empty. We had the King Road Safeway shops sit empty for many years. They're finally mostly full. We have, Milwaukie Marketplace, which hopefully will fill up with the new, with the new seasons and the Planet Hollywood coming in. But we create more nodes, and we're going to do this with our hubs, presumably, too. We create more nodes when there isn't that demand for our business spaces yet. There may be a time when there is, but I've watched, it took about 10 years for North Main to fill. It took the better part of 10 years for the King Road Safeway to fill. I hope it doesn't take 10 years for Axle Tree to fill, but that has been the pattern. So I think we also have to think about that when we're creating new places. Also, often businesses that are looking for these smaller spaces are more price sensitive, but new construction is hardly ever cheap, and that's probably why Axletree sits empty, right? So again, I still believe the 3-zone consolidation is the way to go.
So I was also interested in Lisa's letter, and I thought about it for a while. And while it's true that in a vacuum, if you build an apartment complex and it only has 15% vegetated area as opposed to, what was it, 35, 25% in the other zone, there will be slightly more heat island effect. That's true. But if you compare it apples to apples of how many housing units are created per amount of pavement created, the reverse is true. You're actually reducing. So if you were to spread the same number of housing units out horizontally, you would actually be ending up covering more lots with either black roofs or parking lots. So I think ultimately having higher buildings, right, because you're getting more housing per
Although
land
you're
area
making
covered.
assumptions about the size of units, how many units get into the buildings, right?
Well, you got to call something equal, right? It's not, there's nothing automatic that if it's a 45-foot building, all the units are going to be 2,000. If it's a 35-foot building, all the units are going to be 1,000 square feet. So you have to, at some point, call something equal, right, in order to make comparisons. The assumption I would make is that you will get more housing units out of a building that's 45 feet high than you will at one that's 35 feet high. So you are housing more people for less lot coverage in that sense.
I would just throw in there, I would also think that there may be a chance at some point that we add to our high-density residential code something requiring white roofs.
White roofs would be great. Green roofs would even be better. Yeah. I don't know.
Just,
I don't,
I made a promise.
Yep,
We're at
I'm-
time for this agenda item, so just giving you some context.
So, while I thought about that, I still think net, the advantages both environmentally, you get more people housed in the same building, again, less energy use, more people housed in the same building, less spread out it is, less coverage of the land it is. I think net, it's still an environmental advantage. And then all of the other advantages that our speaker pointed out are there as well. And we do have our step-down system when high density abuts low density, or as it is now, medium density, there's the step-down. So there's not that sort of massing right
Have
next
we
to it.
seen that built anywhere? I guess maybe we're going to see it at
Are we going to see it
at
up
the
here?
bowling alley,
Yeah, we probably
but we
should.
gave Axletree a pass on that.
No, but you're talking about this setback, the step backs, that's 6-foot step backs.
Right.
What I'm talking about is,
Oh,
actually,
yeah,
you see it.
you're
up-
right,
you
you're right.
see it
Those are
up
two
at
different things.
Monroe.
Yeah.
The buildings close to the street on Monroe are only 2 stories, 3 stories, and the buildings
Right.
further in are 5 stories, or
Right.
4 stories, whatever they are. That's what it is.
Right. I'm watching with interest the bowling alley development to see how that works and how it looks from the house side, because I don't really feel like we've had a proper development that really did that before. So I am looking forward to see how that shakes out.
So in any case, I still think that the consolidation of having one high-density zone in a city that's only 4 square miles makes more sense than having a multiplicity of them.
Yeah, it's not affecting a large amount of not already developed land. We've heard over and over from our developers that simpler is better. And I like to make things more straightforward for our planning department as well.
Any further discussion?
I mean, from the housing option perspective, right, it's more housing options. Also, when you when you consider where the high density residential zones are, it's all by, like King Road, where the Safeway is. You got, McLaughlin, you got areas where there's going to be high density. So although the transition, I can understand why people are concerned about that. Again, like the mayor said, we have those in place for the design. And I just feel like the benefits will outweigh what the cons are, in my opinion. Just with the needs of housing, and we don't have land. I mean, we're running out of space. We just need more options out there.
Vera, could you put the map back up for us? And maybe the map with the different colors, the 3 colors. Yeah. So just, playing devil's advocate here, you've got the R1B, the orange, which is intended to be the most dense. But you've got property out on the edges, which will be cheaper for developers, and which now can go just as high as that. So instead of having them grow outward, having the tallest part of our city grow outward, sort of incrementally, you're going to have popping up 4 stories in lots of places. I think one prime place it's going to pop up is that empty lot on 43rd Avenue, just past the Safeway, the one where we had to stop the bike path because of lack of cooperation. So now this code will allow that building to be 10 foot taller than it would have been otherwise. It will be a very odd building for everyone living around it, sticking up. Everyone in single-story homes with, 45 feet and very little setback, towering over them. So, yeah.
Say that again, how big is that lot size that you're talking about?
I don't know what the lot size is. It's a fairly good sized lot. So at the corner of 43rd and King, there's a house that's a law office. Right. And behind that, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
On 43rd.
Because I live right off of King and 55th.
Yeah.
And I always drive by that empty lot and always think that could be affordable housing units, especially right next to a Safeway. Because typically low-income folks are the ones that have a hard time getting to the grocery store. So that would be a benefit.
Well, we know, I think, that I believe there have been pre-app meetings and things. Vera's nodding. We know there's some development being discussed there. Is affordable housing what's being discussed there?
Probably not.
I don't recall subsidized affordable housing being part of it. A couple of the pre-apps included middle housing options, townhouses, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Like, wasn't that lot owned by Habitat for Humanity?
No,
Is that the same lot?
it was part of the law office site, and it was partitioned. So just that the empty part is now its own tax lot. No.
And with this map, just looking back at the orange, the R1B, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much where the high density is supposed to be, but is there anywhere to build there right now? Is there space to build there?
Well,
Can we
there's
build- I mean-
businesses, it's largely, except for that was the other map she showed with the overlay, for lack of a better word, map, the 5-foot setback map. Yeah, that. So the far north are residential, but most of that is our businesses, the school, the Waldorf school, the Catholic school. There are some, you can see the smaller lots in there. There are some residential.
But that orange space is basically it, right? Without consolidating into one zone.
Yes. Well, that's
R1B.
already the most dense zone that we have, other than, well,
But
not really.
But sorry, Vera, go back to the 3 colors. As I understand it, the lighter yellow, I guess I'll call it brown and light and yellow. The brown is also 45-foot height, right?
It's the R2, which is pulling in the R1 standard, so yes.
Yes. So the only difference in the height is, I mean, it's less of an impact on historic Milwaukie. It's really the impact around the King Road Safeway and those other pods around the Wichita, et cetera.
Which are mostly built out already as apartment
Right.
complexes.
Right. Yeah.
So they're unlikely to be torn down anytime soon.
I'm sorry, what's mostly built out as apartment complexes?
Almost all the rest of them that are out in the outskirts are already built apartment complexes. Like Brookside is that one up north, and I forget the one.
Well, the manufactured home parks are part of
Right,
it.
that is part, yeah.
And then single-family homes there on Rusk Road. Anyway.
Okay, so I have a question that's a technical question. You had 3 questions for us. One was about setbacks, the 5-foot setback question, which I don't think anybody's talking about adding the 5-foot setbacks to anything except the R1B area, right? Nobody's interested in doing that. Okay, so that question is answered. And then it's the 1 or 3, and that's kind of what we're debating here. Wasn't there a third question? Do we want the 5-foot setbacks in the R1B? Was that the third question?
Yes, I think, yeah. How
Okay.
many zones do we want? And where do we want the 5-foot setbacks?
Okay, so are we interested in attaching the 5-foot setbacks that Joseph called in and suggested for just that area that's the R1B? So basically this area just right over here. And his point being that, you know, those kinds of complexes in this kind of area typically are sidewalk, you know, they're what do they call, pedestrian-oriented developments, which is typically a 5-foot setback or 0 setback in many places.
Just on that point, I would note that it's true. Like, I mean, when you think of urban places, you have a 0 or a 5-foot setback. You also have a wider sidewalk. We don't have very wide sidewalks in some of that area. So should a 5-foot setback come with a wider sidewalk expectation?
Which I don't think we can answer tonight.
Which what?
Which I don't think we can answer tonight.
Yeah, we can't change that, but that's something you can come back to and add that on as a design standard, or it wouldn't be a design standard, it'd be a
Public Works.
public works standards, yeah. That's something you can do after the fact. But is everyone interested in that, the 5-foot setback in that, just that area that's R1B? Okay. So then the only question we're answering now is 1 or 3. And all right, so I would entertain a motion. And by the way, is this the motion, if that's what we're wanting, is the one?
Yeah, the title was the same regardless of the
Okay.
details. The
Perfect.
code package behind it will reflect what you decided.
Okay, excellent.
I may not get it right, but I'm happy to try. Yeah, I'll move for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance amending the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan residential land use designations, municipal code, Title 19 zoning ordinance, Title 14 signs, and the zoning map for the purpose of addressing the consolidation of the high-density residential zones, file number ZA 2022-002.
And do you need to note the amendments Vera was as amended?
As amended by staff.
Yeah, okay.
Does that catch it?
I second. Or no, are we good?
Is that we're good with that?
Yes, I just
That's
want to know, is the motion for the full consolidation?
Full
Full
consolidation.
consolidation.
Sorry, yes, for full consolidation and
With the
a
5-foot.
setback just in the R1B area. Okay. It has been moved. Oh, wait, did I get a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance amending the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan residential land use designations, municipal code, Title 19 zoning Ordinance Title 14 Signs and the zoning map for the purpose of addressing and the consolidation of the high-density residential zones, file number ZA 2022-002 as amended by staff. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
It passes 4-1. Ms. Ober, would you please read the title once?
Thank you, actually, for that. An ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, amending the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan Residential Land Use Designations Municipal Code, MMC Title 19, Zoning Ordinance Title 14 Signs, and the zoning map for the purpose of addressing the consolidation of the high-density residential zones, file ZA 2022-002.
So the point of that was that when something is not unanimous, it has to be read at 2 separate meetings. So the second reading and the adoption will be set for the next council meeting on December 20th, 2022. Good work, everyone. We are now going to the business items.
Wondering, should we have a break
5-minute
now?
break? Okay. 5-minute break, is that enough? Everybody, 5-minute break, 5-minute break.
Thank you. Projected final point.
out and look for folks who, 6 members who represent these areas of interest: cyclists, walkers, people under the age of 18, older adults, parents with young children, mobility challenged, and business interest. We also had these other folks, somebody from the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee and or the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee member, somebody from the Public Safety Committee, somebody from the Equity Steering Committee, a planning commissioner, and city council. That's a total of 11 positions on the committee. So the great news is that we advertised all throughout the city, and we got a lot of really great applications, folks really interested in the committee. We had 25 folks apply for the committee, including several folks that applied from the Public Safety Advisory Committee and the Comp Plan committees. So we had 25 people apply in the general pool. So what we thought, talked to the panelists after we did the interviews, and we really had great people, so many wonderful people that we interviewed. So what we're suggesting that we do is add a couple more positions to the advisory committee. One is to round out to make sure that we have representation geographically across the city, so that we have someone who is from every neighborhood. They might not necessarily sit on their NDA, but they are in the different geographic neighborhoods all throughout the city. Add one more person of an area of interest, one more person from PSAC, one more CPAC, CPIC person, one person over 65 or older, somebody from the business or freight, and somebody who is from the disabled community, because some of those roles we didn't get to fill, so we're hoping to still get to fill them. So, and then also we got so many great folks that we want to have some alternates. So we're proposing to have 2 alternates in case somebody needs to step down, that they could step up. And we asked all the folks that we interviewed if they would be interested in doing that and coming to the meetings. They said yes. So what we're thinking is that if we add these additional positions, there would be 17 and or 18 people on the committee, as opposed to the 11 folks that we had originally, because we're trying to reach out to get some of those folks that we didn't have initially. And that's it. I just really wanted to see if you all had any feedback or questions or comments, and if you were on board with adding these additional seats on the committee. So we would go from 11 folks to 17 or 18 folks.
So is there a definition for the area of interest? I mean, there's some group that you're trying
It's
to
the original one, sorry. So
Okay.
It's these original ones.
Oh, okay. You're just saying one, because
Just
that's,
one more person.
because that's 7 areas and 6 persons. So
It's filling out, it's finishing the list of additional
Okay.
areas of interest, yes.
okay.
And the only slot that we don't have is someone under the age of 18, but we think that we can round it out for all of the rest of the positions.
And like you have mobility challenge there, and then you have person with disability on the other. So you're seeing those as 2 different, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, we didn't have a mobility challenge person on the original appointment. So one of the things that Laura and I did together is we actually went and spoke to some community members to try and find the right fit. And we did. I think we found somebody who will be an excellent fit for the board and is excited, has lived here for a very long time and has agreed to serve. So we'll come back with a name as a proposal, but has actually also been helping us with our ADA stuff over the last couple of years, where he would experience something and call, and we'd work through it. So, yes, and.
I mean, I always worry about ballooning committee sizes, just because it does make it hard, as you will know more than anyone, how much harder that makes it to convene and to reach conclusions sometimes. And I always worry that we have a lot of tools in our toolbox around outreach that are really great. And I think we have seen, Adam Moore's work to bring in other voices in parks development, how using different methods can get us excellent, useful feedback from people who don't necessarily have the bandwidth to serve on a committee for months on end. So I guess I just don't want to see this end up resulting in staff not having time to do that kind of work, because you've got your hands full managing a committee of 17 people, you know.
I feel comfortable with this size of committee. I've thought about it, and I think that we will have the capacity to do that additional outreach. As a matter of fact, that's critical, and that's part of our overall engagement plan. So I think we can do both this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I know you kind of don't have an option given the state's requirements have changed and Metro's requirements have changed. But
Right.
if you feel good, I feel good.
I was gonna say, I'd say this is essentially the size the comp plan committee was, you know?
And it's roughly the size of the original transportation committee was. It was just broken up into groupings, right? There was a bike
Oh,
group,
yeah, I think it was way
pedestrian
more
group,
people.
and there was a-
Because we did, that's the difference from that 2007 to now, is we did mode specific, and every mode specific meeting was open to sort of all comers. And there were people who served on more than one mode specific committee. So I would say the total numbers would have been more, but
It was 40.
40?
40.
Yeah, I went back and I counted. But what I really love about what Laura's doing is this is only one piece of this. And I think that the way she's outlined the various engagement strategies, we're going to have a lot of inputs into that. And I think we're probably going to exceed overall. This just makes sure that in the team she's working with every day to put all these pieces out that we're hearing from all the voices, that at least some voices that are going to help give us that this diverse experience. So I actually think we're going to hit a lot of people in this
Yeah.
process. And I think
yeah.
the town hall meetings in particular, if we can get back to those in person like we used to do, it's 100, 110 people that we end up meeting with. It's pretty cool.
So there were a couple of letters we got from people suggesting, you know, tweaks or suggesting, and I guess one was recently received was suggesting giving a seat to Bike Milwaukie. I suspect in this list of people, you're going to have a few people who are members of the Bike Milwaukie Facebook group. So I'm not too worried about, especially there's a lot of overlap with the PSAC on that and other things. So I'm not, I don't feel like we necessarily need to call out Bike Milwaukie specifically. The other concern I did hear, we heard early on, was about not discounting the fact that for older people with mobility challenges, sometimes the car is the right method of transportation, and we shouldn't just be focused on alternative methods. And so I guess I just wanted to make sure that was
That's part of
taken
the
into
transportation
account.
system plan. That's one
Yeah.
part, right? Cars are one part of the overall plan. So yes, that will not be de-emphasized.
But it is also part of why we added, to make sure that we had the age demographic, it's why we added some older Milwaukeeans to the group, just to make sure that for physical aging in place opportunities, we're talking about it.
I appreciate this because, you know, we obviously, staff took in consideration what the public was asking for. And the fact that it's modeled after, you know, previous major implementations or major systems being revised, I think that's all they really wanted. So this is great. I'm glad that we're getting more voices to the table. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Good job. Thank
We'll come
you.
back with appointments in the next couple months.
Oh, I did hear from the city manager that ODOT is slowing things down.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
She doesn't want to comment on that? Okay.
It has been truly shocking. I thought that we would have been well into this process by now. We were awarded the grant in September of last year. The grant, it still hasn't left ODOT's office to go to DOJ for review.
Oh, my goodness.
So on that note, it could be March, April, May, June before we actually start this process.
Would they like one of us to take it to them?
Actually, we might. So we'll be having that
Reach out to our
conversation.
state rep and have
Yeah,
them
we
pull some
should.
chains.
Yeah.
To be fair, and I did also say this, they are woefully understaffed in this team. It's a similar problem that a lot of agencies are having of just keeping up. So I actually really appreciate ODOT's been working with us on the Monroe Greenway. That's going fairly well. But this is hard. It is really hard. So if anyone has a dear friend, they can call an ODOT. It would be useful.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
All right. New building energy resolutions. There are 2 of them. This will be presented by our Climate and Natural Resources Manager, Natalie Rogers.
Hi, everyone. Tonight, I do not have a PowerPoint for you, which feels very exposed. But my name is Natalie Rogers. I'm the Climate and Natural Resources Manager. Today, I am back to bring 2 resolutions that we have revised using feedback from the last council session, as well as learnings from kind of regional conversations happening around the same topic. And so there's 2 resolutions for you to hear today. There's one focused on city-owned buildings, and that resolution essentially calls for the systematic kind of evaluation and decarbonization or through electrification of city-owned buildings. This is primarily around if there's a significant investment into a building structure, or if there is an asset that fails and we need to replace it anyways, and it's economical at that time to do so anyways, to replace it, to pursue a carbon-free or low-carbon option through electrification. Just for context around the city-owned buildings conversation, the city does purchase 100% renewable electricity right now. We are in 2023 having 100%, I can say, carbon-free electricity generated in Oregon. We're purchasing an equivalent amount for operations from essentially a new kind of solar development in Eastern Oregon. And then the second resolution that I have for you today is the new buildings resolution. This one, we were waiting for some more context from the city of Eugene. They're having a very similar conversation around new construction. This does not apply to any existing connections. This would be new connections for residential structures is the way that the resolution is framed. That's because Eugene decided to proceed with a residential resolution themselves and residential code. They're still in those conversations. They've been having public hearings and discussions. They have not adopted any code. So what we have for you is we've presented a revised option that focuses on residential buildings. And with that, I'll answer any questions. Otherwise, I'm kind of going to turn it over to you.
Anybody have any questions? All right. Excellent. Thank you. We will take public comments. I think we have a handful. Let's start with Michelle.
Sorry, let me just tell you. Apparently, this person is unable, so that's why I'm not here. So you can just ignore
So
that.
get rid of that one. Okay. All right, good. Michelle.
And Michelle Gia, I believe, is on Zoom. Michelle, can you hear us and can you unmute?
Yes, I can hear you and hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, I see heads nod. Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michelle Gilla. I am the Director of Realtor Advocacy here at the Portland Metropolitan Association of Realtors. I did submit a written testimony, which is in your packet tonight, and I wanted to tune into the conversation really to drive home, no pun intended, the fact that, you know, we are in a housing crisis right now, and our members are particularly concerned about any new changes that would potentially stall the development of new residential units in the region, specifically tonight here in the city of Milwaukie. And I'm not sure if you've heard from the Home Building Association about their concerns with the way this resolution is before you today. So I'm just urging more dialogue, some more analysis of like the carbon and resiliency impact of residential gas bans. I'd like to know more about the city's carbon accounting Are you potentially asking for residents to sign up for only renewable energy? Is that an opt-in or opt-out program? How does that impact the cost of the house and running the home? So again, in a housing crisis and affordability crisis, we're just concerned about resolutions like this that could potentially impact the development of new housing in Milwaukee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Nina.
Mayor Gamba, City Council staff. My name is Nina Carlson, and I'm with Northwest Natural Government Affairs. And I'm just basically here to talk with you guys just a minute about our concerns around the resolutions. I appreciate that you are only bringing forth 2, and I understand as it relates to municipal buildings that there is a lot of sense in what you're looking at. But our concerns really are focused on your decarbonization plan through the removal of energy choice. We're concerned that, as we stated in the record, and I think I shared a lot of information with you guys over the last month or 2 months, that your resolutions are based on misinformation. The whereas clauses that you have in the preamble, I have submitted a lot of information kind of pulling those apart, showing where we feel that there really are some inaccuracies. And we and others in our coalition basically have not received any feedback regarding any of those questions that we asked, concerns that we had. And that in itself is a little bit disturbing to have industry and business and energy providers not brought into this conversation. We continue to hear inaccurate statements from those who are advocating paid proponents for forced electrification. The repetition of their misinformation does not make that information true, does not make their studies more scientifically backed. We would ask you to look at the written testimony for examples of these inaccuracies that we've tried to discuss with you. We look forward to participating in the analysis going forward and the public engagement that the process that the city intends with these resolutions and assisting the city to achieve their goals. We will hopefully be following up with those of you afterwards with additional information to help inform this very important decision that's before you, and appreciate that your service and the fact that you have a lot of difficult decisions to make, and we hope that we can continue in partnership with you. Thank you.
All right. Anne, see her in the audience. Is she online?
Yep, she is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We'll have a talk. Ann, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Hello, Mayor Gamba, councilors and staff, and thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony tonight. I'm Ann Pernick, and I'm with Safe Cities at Stand at Earth, and I'm a resident of Portland, Oregon. I work with local government leaders and advocates all over the U.S. and Canada who are working to pass local legislation to stop fossil fuel expansion and phase out fossil fuels to protect local health and safety and global climate. Building electrification is a key policy area where many cities have passed policies, and we're hearing about new initiatives all the time. The reasons for this are many. Even under normal operation, gas stoves mean asthma risks to kids that are comparable to the risks from secondhand smoke. There are also safety impacts from leaks. On average, a major new gas leak incident is reported to the federal government every 40 hours, while more minor leaks can go undetected and unrepaired for years. 8 homes in Milwaukee were evacuated in 2012 because of a gas leak. My child's school in Portland was recently evacuated for a period of time during a school day because of a gas leak. The building sector is the second highest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the state, and methane leaks all along its route from fracking sites to our homes, meaning that we're also sending up a lot of the more potent greenhouse gas methane straight into the atmosphere. I want to note that electrified buildings that have heat pumps offer both heating and cooling, with access to cooling becoming a life and death issue as we face more significant heat events. With all this in mind, it's important to pass both resolutions tonight to ensure that Milwaukee is taking a holistic approach and engaging the community in getting gas out of buildings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, do you have others online?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 other people, their hands raised. and I will go in the order that they're listed here. 350 PDX volunteer. Can you please state your first and last name and city residence for the record?
Yes, hi, this is Deneen O'Rourke in Northeast Portland, Oregon.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Gamba and city councilors. Thanks for this opportunity to testify. My name is Deneen O'Rourke, and I'm the campaign manager at 350 PDX. We're a people-powered grassroots group dedicated to fighting the climate crisis through solutions rooted in justice. We have members and volunteers all throughout the Portland metro area and surrounding cities, including in Milwaukee. This fall, we helped to publish a comprehensive collection of over 100 sources of research that show why we must transition away from gas to all electric homes and buildings. The report, Methane Gas, Health, Safety, Economic, and Climate Impacts, was signed in support by 76 different organizations across the region. I'll be emailing it to you all along with my testimony. Please use this resource as a guide when looking for synthesized, peer-reviewed research that shows why this is simply the right step to take. Electrification would bring many crucial benefits to Milwaukee residents, including improved air quality, reduced energy use and emissions, buildings that are more comfortable and energy efficient with lower energy costs, new jobs in HVAC, electrical work, and construction, better health and safety, and a pathway to meeting Milwaukee's climate goals. With electrification also comes the opportunity to create a just transition to homes and buildings that are safer, healthier, and more resilient, and powered by clean energy. Seattle, New York City, Denver, New Jersey, Berkeley, Brookline, San Francisco. These are just some of over 80 different cities who have advanced policies to decarbonize and go all electric. Let's add Milwaukee to this historic list. 350 PDX is excited to work with the council to pass progressive policies to decarbonize the city of Milwaukee and lead the state on climate action. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The next person with their hand raised on Zoom is Ruth Dallas. Ruth, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you state your city of residence, please?
I'm Ruth Dallas, and I live in Gaston, Oregon. Though my husband and I are looking to move, and Milwaukee is high on our list. I want to commend Mayor Gamba and the Milwaukee City Councilors for taking on the challenge and the hard work of a transition to clean energy. Earlier this year, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, quote, "We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator. It's time to take our feet off the accelerator. The leaders of our cities, counties, and states must be engaged and focused on doing what they can to mitigate the use of fossil fuels that are driving this tragedy." The gas representative tonight would have you believe that switching to electric heating and cooling and appliances will have little impact on climate change and be too expensive. But reducing methane is one of the most important things that we need to do to avoid the most catastrophic effects of climate change. Because methane, natural gas, which is mostly methane, has more than 80 times the warming power of carbon dioxide over the first 20 years after it reaches the atmosphere. As we develop more renewable energy sources, which will take time, we need to reduce methane now to slow climate change. Municipalities all over the country are making these changes, and to achieve our goals, every community needs to do their part. Whatever costs there are now, a delay in making these changes will be exponentially more costly later. I hope you will pass both resolutions to save the planet for our children and for all the children of the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one more person with their hand raised, Mr. Mayor. Josie Moberg, can you please state your city of residence for the record?
Hi, yes. First of all, Mayor Gamba and City Councilors, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Josie Moberg, and I'm a resident of Southeast Portland, just above the Milwaukee border. I'm testifying tonight urging you to advance the electrification resolutions. Freeing our energy supply from a dependence on gasoline will reward all of us, the individuals inside the buildings who will be breathing cleaner air, folks living near gas pipelines or rail cars who will feel relief from the constant threat of spills and fires, and people living around the world who will benefit from one less city contributing to the climate crisis. On a personal note, my partner risked serious injury fighting the bootleg wildfire in Southern Oregon last summer. In fact, there isn't a single Milwaukee resident who hasn't been impacted by the climate crisis in one way or another, whether through traveling smoke or unpredictable temperature and precipitation patterns. The climate crisis becomes more personal every year. In order to ensure healthy, equitable communities, we must choose gas-free construction of new buildings, provide support to families to retrofit their homes, and lead by example so that other Oregon communities will follow. Milwaukee has been a leader in many ways, but you wouldn't be in uncharted waters if you enact these resolutions. Over 80 cities across the country have advanced policies to decarbonize their buildings by going all electric. And I also just quickly wanted to say that those giving testimony tonight who represent the energy choice have been self-identified industry representatives who have fiscal conflicts of interest in continuing the status quo. They also have colleagues at Northwest Natural who make over $3 million a year. These folks can try to deny the many sources of scientific evidence proving the consequences of gas infrastructure, but everyday people who only represent ourselves and our community will tell you that the electrification is what we want, what we and our families need. You have the choice to put the future of Milwaukee first this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else, Scott?
That was the last one.
Greer?
Mayor Gamba and City Council, thank you for providing this opportunity. My name's Greer Ryan. As you know, I'm the Clean Buildings Policy Manager at Climate Solutions, which is a regional nonprofit focused on accelerating clean energy solutions to the climate crisis. First, I want to thank you all for your serious consideration of this issues. You've been working on this since January with multiple meetings in the last few months with intense, robust public discussion and lots of discussion amongst you all. It's just very clear that you're addressing the harms of methane gas and improving our climate in the building sector very seriously. I have notes here, but I don't have my glasses, so I'm sorry for the sound. Over the past few meetings, we've heard from many Milwaukee residents who care about this issue, and I really appreciate the work and the thought you all and city staff have put into this. I'm here today to urge you to pass these resolutions without delay so that your staff can move forward with ensuring that buildings are constructed more efficiently from the start. Buildings are the second largest source of climate pollution in the state, and the fastest and most cost-effective way to decarbonize these buildings will be to ramp up energy efficiency and move to high-efficiency electric appliances. The consensus is there. If you look at the literature, if you talk to climate or energy experts, it really is not a debate except for industry interests. We have to do this as quickly as possible so we don't lock ourselves into 40 to 50 years of new pollution from these newly constructed buildings, so that since we are in a hole with the climate crisis, can stop digging and start building solutions. I also want to flag, there's always more work to do. So even after passing these resolutions to help existing Milwaukee residents make this transition, it'll be really critical that we do a lot of outreach collectively as the nonprofit community, but also community-based organizations here in Milwaukee and with you all. So I'm just going to repeat the little PSA I did earlier in case anybody wasn't on at that time, that there will be a community event this Sunday for clean and healthy buildings at 5:30 at Chapel Theater. You'll be able to hear from some public health, clean building design, climate and energy justice, and affordability experts about the benefits of transitioning to electric appliances, as well as how to access some incentives to be able to do so more affordably. Everyone's welcome, and we hope to see you there. So again, thank you so much for consideration of these issues. And again, I urge you to pass these resolutions without delay. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else, Scott?
So, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Discussions. I'd take a motion.
Well, this is some of the testimony. We've had a housing affordability crisis. That was brought up earlier. We've had that for a long time. And I'm not going to say that developers or realtors haven't done enough for it, but I highly doubt that natural gas ban is going to cause more, exacerbate the problem. And there's a lot of other things that those organizations can do to fight housing affordability, like building cheaper. You don't always have to maximize your profits. You can actually build and help people and still make some money on the side. I've done it before as a contractor. So that's just to that point. If not now, then when is my question as well. Because, 20 years ago, they said 20 years. 20 years before that, they said 20 years. 20 years before that, they said 20 years. So if you ask them now, they'll still say 20 years. So at some point, you got to stop kicking the can down the road. And maybe by putting this resolution into play, these organizations and these companies will get serious about climate change and its effect. I'm ready for this. I think that Milwaukee's ready for this. I think that we need this. And I think that this is important. Climate is an issue that's on a lot of people's minds these days. And in Milwaukee, it's on a lot of people's minds, on a majority of people's minds. So I think that I don't think there's time to waste on this. This doesn't mean that the discussion is closed. Again, Eugene passed the resolution as well, but they're still in discussions. They're still having conversations. This doesn't end the conversation, but maybe this will bring those that have been dragging their feet, maybe it'll bring them faster to the table, or maybe it'll get them to really think about the changes that they need to make. Me personally, I try to hear every side, but I don't appreciate it when I do that and then one side deceptively uses the survey to put out to our citizens. I don't like those kind of practices. I don't appreciate that. So I try to give my time as much as possible to those people to hear them out. And when questions are being given to our community about who do you trust more, your utility company or your city council, that's not a partnership. That's not working together. That's scaring people, that's using fear, that's trying to drive a wedge purposely. And that's not what we're here to do, and that's not what we stand for. So I'd be ready to pass this right now.
We can go down the...
Okay, I'm also ready to pass this now. I think it's wise that we took the third one off the table for now. It's a conversation we can circle back to later and will make more sense after we've, resolved the climate fee issue anyway. So I do think the consensus is we've had some things sent to us in the last 24 hours challenging the science, but I think the science is pretty clear both on climate and on human health impacts. And I'm frankly personally looking at removing my gas stove and replacing it with an induction stove because of, anyway. So I know we have a late night and we have a mayor who has to get on a plane. So I'm ready to pass these as well.
I'm continue to be comfortable with the first resolution to address our city buildings. I think that the best way we've done some of our climate work is to lead by example, and this is exactly that. And in my conversations with community folks, I haven't heard concerns about that one. And I continue to feel like the community is not ready for the adoption of a resolution around new buildings. And I've spoken about this at length in our many conversations, so I'll try and keep it brief. But the thing that I feel called to say about this right now is it is important. I've said a million times over and demonstrated in many ways how dedicated I am to climate issues and how optimistic I am about Milwaukee as a community and its ability to move with council as a collective leadership on climate issues. I feel like we are going out of order in that adopting the first one, letting that sink in, using that as an educational tool, saying this is why it's important to us, is a springboard to a much more meaningful conversation with the community than what we've been trying to very hastily do in the past few months for a deadline that I just don't feel exists. The mayor has brought up 1,500 units. When I do the count, it's half that. Most of those buildings are already permitted. I'm not saying that that doesn't matter, but I'm not feeling the urgency that he is looking at this when I balance it against the cost we pay. Local government is where you have the most direct contact with your community. And I think that's a beautiful and precious thing. And I think it's something that is to be respected from the dais and appreciated and valued. And we have had other conversations tonight about other places where I have said, I think we've heard enough. So it's not that I always think we need more. But on this issue, I think we're moving faster than people really understand. And when we do that, I think we risk breaking the relationship that we've been entrusted with as elected leaders. And I don't want to do that. I would rather see a few more months, 6 months, whatever, to let the growing chorus of condemnation of methane spread throughout our community. It's already rolling out nationally. We're seeing it more and more every day. Let Eugene go a little farther down the road so we have more of an understanding. Have the time to have the conversations in the community with folks who really don't understand why this is important to us, and then do the vote. I understand, I love that this thing is happening on Sunday. That's great. That's exactly the kind of showing up we need. Thank you to the Breach Collective for doing that. But it doesn't mean that the community feels included in the decision when you adopt the resolution and then say, oh, but here's what we mean. And I think we've heard from Planning Commission and I've certainly heard as I've been campaigning and talking to residents door to door, the sense that that relationship between council and our community in this weird quasi post-pandemic time is fragile. And I would rather do more to build it than to damage it at a time when I don't see the necessity. So I will be voting no on the second one. I'm more than happy to support the first one.
I'll keep this brief. And when I say that, I mean it.
Thank you. I deserve that.
No, that wasn't a dig at you. I am ready to support the city-owned one. I have a question, and I think it's been asked before. The future buildings, that's just commercial, right? Or is it residential?
It's just residential.
Just residential, and it's just new buildings.
And it begins in March 2024. So to Councillor Heisey's point, I think she's right. The 1,500 number, a lot of that ship will have sailed by March 2024. In my mind, that's not a reason not to do it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I talking to the folks in my neighborhood, they still don't even understand what we're talking about. I would agree with everything Councilor Heisey said. I'm ready to vote yes on the first one and no on the second one. That's it. Brief.
Thank you all. And thank you all who spoke both at this hearing and the, whatever it's been, 3 or 4 previous hearings. We have an opportunity to join with Eugene in providing leadership for the state to take steps that feel uncomfortable to some people because it's new, it's unknown. I think what we do know is that the people in Milwaukee, I campaigned entirely 100% on climate. And at the doors, I had this very conversation with many, many, many people. And virtually all of them were supportive. People, not everyone does understand the connection between the raw methane that goes into our atmosphere and the so-called clean fuel that natural gas has always presented itself as after it's burned. But once they understand it, they're very clear that we need to be doing something about it and doing something about it in short order. I will be voting yes on both of these resolutions, and I would strongly encourage the next council and staff to put significant time into helping people understand the opportunities that are available towards beginning to move towards electric devices in their homes as their current devices fail. I think that's an equally important piece to what we're doing today, but this piece that we're doing today stops the bleeding. It stops any further new equipment being installed that will be in buildings for 10, 15, 20 years. And it gives us that fewer that we have to replace in order to hit our climate goal in 2035 of being net zero building energy. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
I gotta make sure I'm on the right page. I move to approve the resolution to decarbonize the building sector and to accelerate the transition of decarbonized city-owned and city-financed buildings to promote climate, public health, and resiliency benefits.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to decarbonize the building sector and to accelerate the transition of decarbonized city-owned and city-financed buildings to promote climate, public health, and resiliency benefits. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. And the second motion?
I move to approve the resolution to decarbonize the building sector and to accelerate all electric future buildings to promote climate, public health, and resiliency.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the resolution to decarbonize the building sector and to accelerate all electric future buildings to promote climate, public health, and resiliency. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It passes 3-2. All right. There we have it. Thank you.
Looks like the city manager.
Oh, I was just going to say Adam's online. So for our next agenda item, we're going to Zoom.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. So our next agenda item is Neighborhood Parks Master Plan Adoption resolutions. And this will be presented by our Parks and Development Coordinator, Adam Moore.
Good evening, Council. Sorry I can't be there with you in person. I have some lingering illness that I don't want to share with you. I have a very brief presentation. Just want to talk a little bit about where we've been, where we're going, and then I can present each park plan to you all in order, Bowman Bray, Belfour, and Scott, and I'll pause along the way for any questions or comments.
Hey, Adam, it sounds like something might be rubbing against your speaker. So if you can make sure you're clear and as close to your microphone as possible. We can hear you. There's just an occasional rubbing, that's all.
You've learned so much over the years, Scott. You can diagnose.
Okay, how's that sound? Maybe still a little bit?
I think you're okay. I think you're good.
Okay, can everyone see my screen and my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to do a quick engagement review, just talk about where we've been over the past 10 months. So you may remember we put together a public involvement plan created with the Equity Steering Committee and the Parks and Rec Board. That was back in March. So we used all of their recommendations in order to involve the community in the work that we've done. We also held monthly PARB updates. Those were recorded and posted on our website and on YouTube. We invited members from the affected NDAs and the library board to join us at each of those meetings. We met with all of the NDAs in September, and we did a follow-up meeting with the Ardenwald Johnson Creek NDA back in November to discuss some questions and concerns over the community garden. And council, we've met in January, June, September, and twice in November. And these plans were presented to PARB at a special meeting on November 16th. We had representatives from each of the boards there as well. Unfortunately, we did lose quorum while we were presenting, and we don't have a formal motion or approval from PARB on these plans. Just looking at the parks individually, so Scott Park, we did an open house in May that had over 200 people that attended. We did planning meetings that were very well attended in both August and October. Bowman Bray and Belfour Parks, we did a summer open house for each of those two parks, one in July and one in August, and we held planning meetings for both parks in October, which were very well attended. We also did focus groups with our Spanish-speaking community, our BIPOC community, and people with disabilities on your direction. In total, we had over 631 surveys from 27% of which were from new participants and 8% of which were from BIPOC community members. Just looking at the next steps. So Bowman Bray and Belfour Parks, those are zoned as residential properties. And so they will go through the Planning Commission, through the community service use process. And then Scott Park is zoned as a park. However, there are natural resources on site, including a habitat conservation area and a water quality area. And so those will require a type 3 development through the Planning Commission. All three parks, we expect to wrap up the design and the permitting process in late fall of next year, 2023. And then we'll be breaking ground on the parks in the winter of 2024 and cutting the ribbons in October of 2024. I know that there were a couple of questions about this, so I'm just going to pause right here to answer any questions that might be out there.
Well, I thank you for clarifying what it is this planning commission is going to look at. I have a question, and it may be for you and it may be for Laura. I'm not sure, but you know, we've all year when we've had these many meetings, and you did a great outreach job. I really do feel like you did an amazing outreach job. I was at many, but not quite all of those meetings, and we've always talked about you know, council making a decision this month, but until I saw it written in the resolutions, it didn't really strike me that we were being asked to adopt the master plan. And I will just say, having come to council after 9 years on the Planning Commission, that felt backwards to me. Usually Planning Commission adopts a plan and then recommends adoption to the City Council. So this idea that we're adopting a master plan and then it goes back to the Planning Commission feels backwards to me. And if I put myself in the seat of a planning commissioner, I would be like, well, what are we doing? There's a resolution here that council's already adopted it. We're, you know, what can we do? We can't change anything. So I wanted to sort of hear about that, sort of from the planning perspective. Is there better wording, like the conceptual, these designs are adopted or something? Also, I will just note that planning directors over the years I've had a bit of whiplash from the ones who say the master plan should be attached to the comp plan and be, part of the comp plan, and others who say they shouldn't. And I don't remember where we landed on that when we revised the comp plan. So I'd love to hear from Laura on those points.
Took them out.
I would just say on your last point, they are not part of the comprehensive plan anymore, because I think there's this idea that you want to be able to update on a regular basis without having to go through a comprehensive plan update process, right? So that is where it landed this time. And I've been in situations, the same thing, where we have this debate, should it be in, should it be out? And I think it landed on out this time. Okay. And then the other thing regarding kind of the review process, and I don't know the language, to me, when I was looking at the plans, they look like concept plans to me. And I kind of think of these as concept plans, and that the idea is that the council is providing direction on these plans, and the general feedback and the general outlook of these plans are conceptual. But then when they go through the land use process, there may be some tiny tweaks that need to be made based on the community service use process and based on the type 3 review for the natural resources process. So that's kind of the way that it feels, that's what it feels like to me. Does that answer your question, or does it that's something to add?
Yeah, and I think it's also a bit of language. And Adam, also correct me if I'm wrong too, because these aren't necessarily parks master plans as we would normally consider a parks master plan. These are development plans. So we already have the property designated as open space and parks. We have talked about, well, there's been a couple processes specifically on these properties. And like Laura noted, on Scott Park, there'll still need to be a planning commission for the natural resources. The point I'm trying to make is that this is more about the implementation of what's already been done versus talking about the creation of a new master plan. Which
these new concepts are amending what were existing master plans. It was setting aside Scott Park, but for the other two, they're amending what were existing master plans. But I guess just the wording of adopting a master plan,
yes,
it's a little bit
agreed
sticking with me. So.
I think that's part of the issue here is actually it's language.
I do want to give Adam a chance to weigh in. I actually do think Scott Park is a master plan. So I just need to clarify that. Hold on a second. Adam, can you jump in?
Yeah, so Bowman Bray and Belfour have existing master plans. These would update those. Scott Park does not have a master plan. That was rescinded prior to the library development. So Scott Park would be a master plan. I would lean toward Laura here, but I think that there might not be a problem with calling these conceptual plans, which is what we've been talking to the public about. And we use the word conceptual and master plan often very interchangeably, at least in the states that I've lived in and worked in the past. And we say conceptual because that, explains to people that we haven't gone through the design or the construction schematic process yet.
But I also just want to make sure that it's clear. I think for the land use piece of this, I think we're coming to a better standard. This is the chance that council has to weigh in on the design. So after this, we would not be coming back on the look and feel. So once planning commission goes through their process, it doesn't bump up to us. So I just want to make sure as we're talking about it tonight, you all are giving the feedback specific to these designs as well.
I mean, it doesn't bump up to us automatically, but it could conceptually be appealed.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
Don't I remember us having a conversation about moving away from using the term master plan? Okay, so maybe the resolution could reflect that, since this is a big chance. We did receive testimony that was about more trees on Bowman Bray, I believe it was.
So I do have each of the 3 plans in my presentation. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there, but I can present, if we're good on this topic, I can present each of the 3 park plans, and I'll pause after each one. Okay, I'm going to move forward there. So this is the draft plan for Bowman Bray Park. It has not changed very much since you've seen this in November. The acquisition of the property for Wells Lane has begun. We don't yet have a clear timeline on that, but we believe that this property will be accessible prior to the construction of the park. We'll keep everyone up to date as it moves forward. A change that we've made since November is we've moved the connection to Bowman Bray Park. That will allow us to only keep this path wide from Warehouse Lane to Bowman Street here, and that will prevent some congestion issues here. In November, excuse me, and in October, we showed the community a plan that had the north side of the park here, this perimeter trail that was gravel. In the plans that we showed, we had a lot of feedback on that, and we have changed that back to concrete. We've adjusted the tree placement here quite a bit. We heard a lot about maximizing the shade from the southern exposure on the playground here, so we've moved the trees around. We have had some comments from the community about adding more trees. Right now, we're showing what we think we can afford here. We will add in more trees as the budget allows. Just the major amenities in the park. We have a stormwater garden, a playground with a log scramble, an accessible swing set with engineered wood fiber safety surface, some bike racks, an accessible drop-off area, a picnic shelter with drinking fountains and electricity and picnic tables, a perimeter path, a bench and a play log and a pollinator garden here in the corner, and several trees, the species and exact placement of which will be worked out, all along a nice large open lawn. And this is all based on a total of 151 comments that we received. And with that, I'm going to hit pause here just to let you all ask questions or take comment.
Yeah, I was struck by the person who wrote the letter, and I'm forgetting who it was now. I'm sorry, I read so many.
Teresa.
Thank you. That she's right. You know, our summers are getting hotter and hotter. And the place that a lot of people have to go to get away from that are the natural areas in the parks. And to the greatest degree possible, you know, we also have our tree goal, right, of hitting a certain 40% tree canopy. And I think the more that parks are shaded, the more they will be used in the future. That trend is not, we have not reached the apex of that trend. We are just at the very beginning. So I would concur with the request for more trees. And I think you can still achieve that sort of open glade feeling with the right trees with large canopies that are trimmed up, you know, so that you could throw a frisbee or a softball or something and still be in shade. So I would encourage, as the budget allows, for more trees in that central area.
So when you talk about the cost of trees, I gather that's not just the tree itself, but it's the cost of irrigating the trees. Is that part of the factor here?
Yeah, so it's the cost to maintain the tree over the lifespan of it, as well as the cost to ensure that it lives. A lot of times when you're having people plant trees, they're responsible for the life of that tree over a certain amount of time. And of course, we do have to water it over time. Yeah, individual trees maybe aren't that expensive on their own, but making sure that they live can be costly.
I will throw in not not that it affects tonight's vote, but I do hope that next year we will talk about names of our parks. And I have been thinking this should be our Dogwood Park instead of the one in downtown, because I'm still concerned, as I've expressed before, that we shouldn't really be planting dogwoods along Kellogg Creek. But that is a conversation for another day.
We are bringing it back, so we'll be here this spring.
Okay, next park.
He skipped over. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so this is Belfour's concept, and we talked a little bit about this on November 15th. So our focus here is on protecting the tree coverage and providing the community space. That comes out of the 179 surveys that we received and the conversations that we had with people at the open house. We have made some changes from what the community saw in October. Notably, we changed the width of the path going up the hill here to the playground. That is more narrow here. We also, this cutoff trail here going between the apple tree and the two trees up here, there's a steep slope on this angle here. And so we've made this a soft surface trail that would still make the bare minimum of ADA because it is barrier free. But it would not be the most accessible in that it's not a hard surface, but making this a hard surface would require a retaining wall and would harm the tree roots. And based on your direction, we aren't doing that. So this will be a soft surface trail now. And then of course, in October, and we've discussed this at length, council, we also discussed it at the special PARB meeting on the 16th. And we did as well at the Ardenwald Johnson Creek Neighborhood Association on the 28th. We have removed the community garden because of space here. And I just want to remind everybody that the sidewalks, the street trees, and the drop-off area, that will come later in the full redevelopment of Belfour Street. That will save this project about $200,000, which allows us to pay for the embankment slide here with the rock scramble up, a log scramble play structure, swing set, engineered wood fiber. So will all be accessible, concrete, permeable, concrete path. We have some rock hoppers going over the rock swell here, an open lawn under the canopy for the trees, a picnic shelter with 2 picnic tables, a drinking fountain, and electricity, a small water table, and some bike racks, in addition to some benches throughout the park and park signs. And that is Belfour Park, excuse me.
You've seen one, you've seen them all.
Any comments, questions?
I mean, I regret for the people of the neighborhood who've really wanted a community garden in there for so long that it's not really can't be accommodated and keep the big tree at the front of the park. But I do see that, and I hope that we can work with them to find other places for community gardens in our community.
And I just want to call out that Adam has spoken with the community members. We're going to be talking to them in January about some alternatives. I do think that the new council, it would be really helpful if the council leaned into doing some letters to Hillside and to some other areas to try and encourage surrounding neighborhoods or surrounding developments to provide some of the need. Thank you.
Okay, next park.
And this is Scott Park. So we have blended together, and I will zoom in on the design in a second here. This is a blending of concept 1 and concept 2 that we've been showing the community since August. So it includes an accessible playground here at the front of the park that will use rubberized tile as a safety surface, which will allow for walkers and wheelchairs and multi-generational play. We'll also have a musical instrument in here for some sensory-based play. And then we will have nature-based elements in the corner here and some rock hoppers up to provide a shortcut for kids who don't want to take the long way around. The amphitheater will be made accessible and the stage will be improved with some electrical outlets and other amenities to make programming more easy for everyone. This plan is based on 289 surveys that we received from the community. It includes a perimeter path all the way around that will be completely accessible, some benches at the playground, a picnic table, some log play behind a natural fiber path here underneath the tree. We looked at making this fully accessible with a concrete path. However, this tree here is 40 inches around and we didn't want to damage its roots, so we're keeping this natural. We have a nice viewing platform here of the pond area. We're going to do some riparian plantings here along the creek. We're going to be planting a new tree for Rosalind Denny, who donated the property to the city. The magnolia trees, the war memorial, the lawn outside of the library's children's area, and the existing rain garden will be untouched. It's outside the project area, so we're not showing it here, but we will also work with our facilities and library staff to add in some ADA parking here. It doesn't make sense to make this park, an accessible playground if we don't have ADA parking. So we'll be working on that in the design process. And here it is zoomed in here. Any questions or comments?
Looks great. I love that you were able to get the rubberized surface on there. I think that was really important, and it looks terrific for a blended approach.
Yeah, and I do just want to note that because we are taking a blended approach, this will be kind of a more basic play structure. We are looking at like a hybrid structure. So it'd be similar to like your traditional post and platform playground, but it would be made out of natural materials where possible. So probably made out of wood and metal, but it will be kind of toned down because we are adding in other types of play options here.
I don't remember Spanish being on previous iterations of the maps, but maybe I just wasn't noticing. So that's a very nice feature.
Yeah, so based on the public involvement plan that we created with the Equity Steering Committee and PARB, everything that we've put in writing, all of our presentations, all of our postcards, they've all been translated, and we've had interpretive services provided in Spanish automatically at all of our meetings and open houses. And then we tried to get the word out to everybody that we could provide additional interpretive services in other languages where necessary, but we did it automatically in Spanish for everything.
Adam, this is Ann. Can I just ask one quick question about the document name? Because I know it's something that we would want to change in the resolution if it's possible. Does it need to be master plan in any of these documents, or can we take the alternative approach? And I think we're calling it a concept plan. Are you okay with concept plan in the resolutions?
I'm okay with it. I haven't read any code that requires us to say master plan.
I appreciate it. Thanks. I'm going to just call this because we're getting late. Adam, you've done an amazing job. I'm really impressed by the time, effort, engagement, philosophy, passion, and dedication to the process. I think you've done exceptional work, and this is an incredible moment. And I feel a little bad that we're getting through this faster than I think any of us would want to, in order to just make you know how much we appreciate the work. But because we have what it sounds like is consensus up here, I would like to see if we can call for a vote and proceed.
Quick question though, I mean, if we wanted to add, are we going to be adding more trees to Bowman Brae or no?
I don't think as has kind of been discussed, it's more of a conceptual plan than something written in stone. I think Adam's heard us. I think he'll keep that in mind as he's, doing the final, I guess it's not 90% engineering because it's not really engineered, but whatever that is. And hopefully we'll see more trees. I mean, worst case scenario, we plant trees next year or the year after, right? It's
the point.
But thank you, excellent job all the way through the process. We really appreciate it. The motion, will it require that they say something about changing the wording to call them conceptual plans as opposed to?
It's a resolution, so I think you're okay. But I do, just because I think both Council President Heisey and Councilor Beatty have both made different reasons why we should change the terminology. I think it's probably worthwhile just to note it, whoever makes the motion.
Okay, are you ready for a motion?
Go for it.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the revised concept plan for Bowman Bray Park with the elimination of the word master in the now wherefore clause, replacing it with the word conceptual.
I second.
Sorry. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution adopting the revised master plan for Bowman Bray Park concept plan with the change of the elimination of the word master for conceptual in the resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Excellent.
Do you want me to keep going?
Excellent work, Adam. Have a great night.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the revised concept plan for Balfour Park, eliminating the word master near the end and replacing it with concept.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution adopting the revised master plan for Balfour Park, for the Balfour Park concept plan, and then eliminating the word master and replacing it with conceptual in the resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously.
All right, now Scott, you think,
What I just heard from Joseph is that the terminology does not matter for the document because it doesn't go into the comprehensive plan. So I think you're fine.
okay. I move to approve the resolution adopting the revised conceptual plan for Scott Park, replacing the word master near the end with the word conceptual.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution adopting the revised conceptual plan for Scott Park and replacing the word master with the word conceptual in the resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously.
Thank you all very much. I will see you in person next time.
Excellent. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Adam.
Feel better.
Yeah. Okay, stormwater code amendments and ordinance. We are not done.
Really close, though. Really close. And we don't have a PowerPoint for this one. So,
Good.
yeah.
Really shaking up the mold this time.
All right. Rocking and rolling.
All right. Well, hello again, Natalie Rogers, Climate and Natural Resources Manager. So I'm here in Peter's place to present the stormwater ordinance and related code changes. I worked with Peter on this. Originally, when we were exploring this, it was to provide more clarity around how funding is dedicated for things like green infrastructure, trees, and it kind of originated from this conversation around seeking out a funding source through the proposed climate fund for private tree assistance and other kind of private natural resources. And in order to provide more clarity on what our public dollars can be used for through our stormwater facility, to add in language that really addresses green infrastructure or nature-based infrastructure. This concept is not unfamiliar to the Milwaukie community. I was actually just was pulling up our comprehensive plan, where we actually already call out through policy 3.2.8, improve stormwater detention and treatment standards for the use of best available science, technology, and management practices to meet water quality standards and achieve wildlife habitat protection and connectivity goals and standards. And that's related to habitat connectivity, essentially the other environmental benefits that come from natural resources along with stormwater improvements. We also have right under it, policy 3.2.9 established a city's preference for sustainable stormwater facilities that utilize natural systems and green technology through the use of incentives as well as future code changes. So, this code, it also aligns with our state permits that we have to submit pretty much every year through an annual report, as well as update. For example, we just updated our total maximum daily load or TMDL permit, and that's related to water quality. And pretty much everything associated with that is telling us how are we controlling non-point source pollution, meaning the runoff coming from the roads, the pollution where we can't say this is coming from this pipe. And that's all through things like shading, and that's things through infiltration or the water seeping into the ground and having natural vegetation actually kind of help filter some of those pollutants. And we report to the state, as many other Pacific Northwest communities do, on how we're utilizing this green infrastructure. So the code changes that you see just better defines pretty much the path that Milwaukie, along with other communities in our regions, are already moving to, which is utilizing green technology through things like trees, public trees as stormwater improvements, rain gardens, detention facilities, and using that infrastructure where possible and where feasible to provide our stormwater improvements, and preserving that infrastructure where possible to retain those improvements and benefits that the green infrastructure provides. So if you have any specific questions on the code, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, and the only thing I would add is we actually adopted a budget that did this. So part of why we've been working on this is because the funds and the ordinances, we're going to be coming back in the next year, just talking about ordinances that haven't been looked at since 1985 and making sure that they're actually gelling together. This is one of the places where we started on this several months ago. I really want to call out both Steve Adams, Jen Garbley, and Kelly Brooks for also being at the table to talk about this.
And we're going to be coming back in the next year or so with a lot of other required code changes related to our stormwater management as a city. So you'll likely be seeing this code again.
Excellent. All right. Council will now take community members' comments regarding the proposed stormwater code amendments for those in person who wish to speak. If you are at City Hall, please submit a yellow comment card. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand reaction. If you're calling in through Zoom and would like to make a comment, dial *9 to raise your hand. You may also submit a comment via email to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. Before you make your comments, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment on this?
See no hands raised, Mr. Mayor. There's no emails and no comment cards.
Excellent. Is there any council discussion on the stormwater code?
It seems pretty straightforward to me. It makes sense.
Yep.
Regularizing what we were doing already.
Yep. All right. If there is no further discussion or public comments, I'd entertain a motion on the proposed ordinance.
I move for the first and second read. Am I on the right page? Yes, I am.
Yep.
Move for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance amending Milwaukie Municipal Code by amending Chapter 13.14 Stormwater Management to clarify the use of stormwater funds.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance amending Milwaukie Municipal Code by amending Chapter 13.14 Stormwater Management to clarify the use of stormwater funds. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Ms. Ober, would you please read the ordinance twice?
An ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, amending Milwaukie Municipal Code, MMC, by amending Chapter 13.14, stormwater management to clarify the use of stormwater funds. And again, an ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, amending Milwaukie Municipal Code, MMC, by amending Chapter 13.14, stormwater management to clarify the use of stormwater funds.
Scott, would you please poll the council?
Happily, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Cosrabati?
Aye.
Councilor Beatty?
Aye.
Council President Heisey?
Aye.
Councilor Nicodemus?
Aye.
Mayor Gamba?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0, ordinance 2223.
Awesome. Well done, everyone. Made it before 9 as promised. Good job. Excellent evening. Long conclusion to many long processes and good work at work sessions and study sessions and meetings and outreach and all kinds of things this evening. This is a powerful evening. Thank you all. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.